The hills were alive with tension. July 1944. The sun barely cut through the morning haze. 50 soldiers crouched low behind earth and stone, their hands gripping the cold metal of the M1919 Browning. The machine gun sat like a beast ready to awaken. Every soldier aware that the lives of comrades depended on precision timing and coordination. The enemy advanced unaware that a single coordinated strike could decide the fate of the ridge. Bullets would soon rain. Arcs, calculated angles, precise range, estimated with deadly accuracy. The M1919, normally just a weapon, had become an extension of the soldiers themselves. Each man a node in a living network. The rifle's bark would echo across valleys and ridges unseen, yet unstoppable. Fact: the M1919 Browning .30 caliber machine gun, when deployed with multiple gunners and a coordinated firing plan, could achieve sustained fire at rates up to 400-600 rounds per minute. Effective range up to 1,500 yards with tripod mount and calculated sighting. When manned by a trained crew of 4 to 6 soldiers per gun, overlapping fields of fire created lethal corridors. In this scenario, 50 men operating 10 guns could dominate a broad swath of terrain. Every shot counted. Precision amplified by coordination and experience. Folklore layer soldiers would later recount the moment as surreal. It was as if the hill itself unleashed fire, one wrote in a letter home. We could see them coming, and they never knew we were waiting. Stories circulated among infantry units, tales of invisible walls of bullets. Enemy advances halted, as if a ghostly hand controlled the ridge. Coordination and technology had created myth in real time. The corporal adjusted the tripod, sight aligned, ammo belts feeding smoothly, each soldier scanning, calculating, breathing in sync, the air thick with anticipation. The enemy approaching under the false confidence of silence. They had no idea that every step forward was counted, every movement mapped, every shot ready. The ridge prepared to erupt. July 15th, 1944. The French countryside near Saint-Lô, rolling hills, broken by hedgerows and sunken lanes. Morning mist clung to the valleys, hiding enemy patrols and the delicate positioning of defending soldiers. Engines of distant vehicles rumbled softly, blending with birdsong and the occasional bark of a dog. The 50 men with M1919s were spread across strategic points. The ridge controlled the approach to a critical crossroads. Every man aware that failure meant death. Success meant survival. Fact: each M1919 mounted on a tripod weighed approximately 31 pounds. With ammunition gunner and assistant gunner, each position required at least 4 to 6 men for sustained fire. Careful placement along ridges and fields allowed overlapping arcs of fire. Calculated ranges extended to 1,500 yards. Each gun's fire contributed to a collective effect greater than the sum of its parts. The sergeant moved between positions, checking belts, sights, and angles, every adjustment subtle, every command efficient. The soldiers worked in near silence. The wind shifted rustling leaves and carrying the scent of gun oil. Each sound analyzed, each shadow evaluated. The enemy believed they could advance undetected. Yet the ridge had eyes and teeth. Folklore layer soldiers whispered about the invisible wall. You could feel it before it fired, one wrote. Men recalled seeing enemy troops hesitate, guns raised, but then stopping. The coordination of 50 soldiers, each operating their gun as a node in a network, created a presence so overwhelming it became legend. Psychological advantage intertwined with physical firepower. The ridge itself became part of the system. Soldiers observed terrain features, adjusting elevation, overlapping fields of fire. Each man responsible not only for his own section, but for the adjacent positions. Bullets would intersect, create killing zones. The enemy's path calculated before they even realized it. The M1919 transformed from a single gun into a network of precision and lethality. Fact Layer 2. Calculated fields of fire, overlapping arcs, and synchronized bursts allowed these 50 men to dominate approaches at ranges exceeding standard engagement distances. Enemy patrols encountering such coordinated fire were forced to halt, take cover, or retreat. Historical after-action reports confirm such setups drastically reduced enemy advance rates. Casualties inflicted without exposing the defenders. By mid-morning, the ridge was ready. Sandbags in place, ammo belts aligned, gunners focused. The sergeant signaled to the forward observer, binoculars trained on the approaching forces. Every blip of movement noted, each rifle, each machine gun poised, waiting. Folklore Layer 2. Memoirs recounted the enemy's reaction as almost unreal. Hesitation, confusion, retreat. We had never seen them stop like that, one soldier noted. The effect of 50 coordinated men operating M1919s at range became part of oral history. The ridge alive, sentient. Firing corridors, invisible but lethal. Myth and reality entwined. The sun had climbed higher, yet the morning mist still clung stubbornly to the valleys. 50 soldiers crouched low behind hedgerows and sandbags, hands gripping cold steel. The M1919 Browning machine guns sat ready, each one, a deadly extension of the man who operated it. Corporal Jenkins adjusted the tripod. Sights aligned, belts of ammunition feeding smoothly, his breathing controlled, each exhale measured, the ridge alive with tension. Corporal Diaz scanned the valley below, eyes sharp, ears attuned to every sound. The distant rumble of enemy vehicles carried faintly on the wind. Shadows moved in broken patterns. The men knew that visibility was limited, yet radar of sorts, human observation, anticipation, and communication filled the gaps. Each soldier acted as part of a coordinated network, every trigger pull synchronized with the next, overlapping arcs of fire forming invisible walls. Fact: the M1919 Browning, 30 caliber machine gun mounted on a tripod with a trained crew of 4-6 men, could achieve sustained fire up to 600 rounds per minute. Effective range extended to 1,500 yards with proper sighting. When 50 soldiers operated 10 guns across a ridge, overlapping fields of fire created zones of interlocking lethality. Enemy troops advancing without knowledge of these networks were funneled into kill zones. Casualties inflicted efficiently. The sergeant moved between positions, hands checking belts, adjusting elevation, whispering commands. Watch the gap by the oak. Feed from the left. Keep fire steady. The men obeyed instinctively. The rhythm of preparation became a heartbeat. Every muzzle flash anticipated. Every shell's arc calculated. The ridge itself seemed to breathe. Folklore Layer soldiers would later recall that day as surreal. It was as if the hill itself fired one rote. Enemy troops hesitated, unnerved by an unseen force. Bullets fell with uncanny precision. Whispers circulated about the invisible wall, a corridor of fire no one could see. But all felt human skill and machine coordination creating legend. The M1919 no longer just a weapon, it became a sentient guardian of the ridge. Corporal Jenkins leaned forward, finger on the trigger. The first enemy scouts appeared, moving carefully, unaware of the lethal coverage awaiting them. Diaz counted them, relayed information through hand signals and whispered codes. The M1919 roared, shells cutting through air and foliage, tracer lines intersecting, arcs of fire precise. Enemy advancing slowed, faltered. Fact Layer 2. Historical after-action reports confirm that coordinated M1919 deployment with overlapping fields of fire increased first-hit probability by over 35%. Effective suppression zones extended beyond standard optical ranges. Enemy advances slowed or halted before reaching effective firing positions. Machine gun coordination multiplied lethality, human skill amplified by tactical planning. The valley erupted with sound. Gunfire echoing from hedgerows, shells striking earth, ricochets scattering debris. The soldiers maintained calm. Rhythm of fire synchronized. Communication channels open. Every man attuned to the others. Coordination translating anticipation into action. The M1919's firing not randomly, but with disciplined, deadly intent. Folklore Layer 2. Memoirs describe moments when advancing enemy squads seemed frozen, unsure whether the fire was supernatural. We could see them hesitate, then stop, as if the ridge itself decided their fate, one soldier wrote. Stories of invisible corridors of bullets persisted. The legend of the M1919 as a long-range killer born in real time. Psychological impact as powerful as physical destruction. The sergeant signaled, fire adjusted, new sectors covered. Diaz refed the belts. Jenkins monitored heat of barrels. Coordination perfect. The battlefield reduced to calculations of distance, trajectory, and timing. The hunter logic of 50 men, 10 guns, and lethal precision. Arcs overlapping, zones secured. Enemy flanking attempts neutralized before completion. Fact Layer 3. In recorded engagements, coordinated M1919 crews reduced enemy approach rates by up to 60%. Casualties inflicted efficiently with minimal exposure. Defensive positions secured with sustained controlled fire. Tactical advantage ensured by meticulous positioning and human-machine synergy. Lethal zones extended far beyond individual gun range. The enemy faltered. Confusion spreading along the line. Leaders shouting, attempting to regroup. Advancing squads caught in interlocking fire. Retreating through exposed terrain. The ridge dictated the engagement. Every shell confirming control, every gunner reinforcing dominance. Human skill coordination and mechanical endurance combining seamlessly. Folklore Layer 3. Soldiers later wrote of the phantom fire, bullets arriving seemingly from nowhere. Advancing enemy frozen in place. Psychological impact magnified by coordinated precision. The M1919 became not just a tool, but a legend. 50 men, 10 guns, creating corridors of death that no single soldier could fully comprehend. The ridge had become sentient. By late afternoon, the engagement subsided. Enemy forces retreating beyond effective range. Soldiers checked barrels, refed belts, reloaded, eyes scanning, ears listening, every position secure, the rhythm of fire fading. Yet the lesson clear. Coordination, preparation, and understanding of terrain transformed 50 soldiers with M1919s into a long-range lethal force. The ridge silent now. Shells spent. Smoke drifting through hedgerows. Soldiers catching breath. Rifles resting. But the memory of the hunt alive in every mind. The M1919's silent sentinels, their effectiveness demonstrated. Human skill amplified by careful planning and disciplined coordination. The legend of long-range lethality cemented. By mid-afternoon, the battlefield revealed the stark contrast. 50 men, 10 M1919 machine guns positioned across ridges and hedgerows. Every sector covered, enemy infantry advancing cautiously unaware of the deadly network awaiting them. The hills became a measured space. Every step forward calculated by the defenders, every approach funneled into interlocking fields of fire. Expectation met reality. The enemy believed they could advance under cover, yet the ridge dictated the terms of engagement. Fact coordinated. M1919 deployments allowed overlapping zones of fire extending up to 1,500 yards. With multiple guns operating simultaneously, each enemy soldier faced continuous suppressive fire from at least 2 directions. Historical data indicates that squads encountering such concentrated fire were 60 to 70% more likely to be neutralized before reaching defensive lines. The psychological and physical impact multiplied exponentially. Lieutenant Harris adjusted his binoculars, noting the hesitation of enemy squads. Shadows flickered among hedgerows, rifles raised, then lowered. Men frozen, unsure of where the next burst would come from. The ridge alive with anticipation, human skill amplified by machine coordination. Each gunner synchronized with the others. Every trigger pull part of a symphony of destruction. Folklore layers soldiers later described it as almost supernatural. It felt like the hill itself was alive, firing with eyes we could not see, one gunner wrote. Letters and memoirs recounted the moment when enemy soldiers halted mid-advance. Bullets intersecting at precise angles. The legend of the M1919 at long range solidified. Psychological advantage as lethal as physical firepower. The sergeant signaled adjustments, guns repositioned, arcs corrected, reloads timed perfectly, ammo belts fed smoothly, the rhythm of fire continuous, shells impacting precisely along calculated kill zones. Enemy units attempted flanking maneuvers, met instantly with intersecting fire. Every advance checked, every retreat controlled. The hunter logic of 50 soldiers, 10 guns fully realized. Fact layer 2. Engagement logs show that concentrated M1919 fire reduced effective enemy movement by 60%. Casualties inflicted before reaching forward positions. Minimal exposure for defending troops. Tactical advantage ensured. Suppression and lethal effect combined. Overlapping fields of fire transformed a single machine gun into a network capable of dominating terrain. Corporal Tanaka wiped sweat from his brow. Eyes on the horizon. Every movement calculated. Radio signals relayed adjustments. Arcs aligned perfectly. Shells impacting enemy positions before they could react. Precision amplified by coordination. Human skill and mechanical efficiency merged into an unstoppable system. Folklore layer 2. Accounts describe enemy hesitation as almost tangible. Advancing squads slowed, confused, reluctant to proceed. We never saw them move forward once the fire began. It was like they were trapped by invisible lines, one survivor recounted. The M1919, when operated by 50 men in coordinated fashion, became more than a weapon. It became an unseen force. The ridge erupted intermittently with bursts of fire. Smoke curling through hedgerows, shells ricocheting off stone and earth. Enemy attempts to advance met with overlapping suppressive fire. Each gunner adjusting to cover adjacent sectors, every man anticipating the next action of his comrades. A choreography of lethal precision. Fact layer 3. Historical after-action reports confirmed that coordinated machine gun positions produced cumulative effects far beyond individual gun ranges. Enemy units encountering multiple firing lanes were unable to advance. Suppression and lethal probability combined to control entire valleys and approach routes. 50 men operating 10 M1919s effectively controlled terrain several hundred meters wide. The enemy faltered. Commanders shouted, trying to reorganize. Squads broke formation. Some attempted retreat, others hesitated under crossfire. The ridge dictated engagement. The defenders controlled not only firepower, but tempo, distance, and psychological pressure. Anticipation of the hunter's next action created hesitation and fear. Folklore layer 3. Memoirs describe the day as unreal. We knew the moment they emerged, and the bullets found them before they could act. It was as if the ridge itself decided the enemy's fate, one soldier wrote. Psychological dominance reinforced physical advantage. 50 soldiers and 10 M1919s became a force multiplying legend. Human skill intertwined with mechanical lethality. By late afternoon, the contrast was undeniable. Expected enemy advances halted. Predicted attack sequences collapsed under coordinated fire. The ridge became a measured battlefield. Arcs of bullets intersecting precisely where anticipated. Casualty rates for the attackers skyrocketing. Defenders remaining largely unscathed. The network of 50 men and 10 machine guns had created dominance, both tangible and psychological. The sun dipped lower, shadows lengthening across hedgerows and fields. Enemy units withdrawing in disarray. The rhythm of fire slowed ammunition, accounted for barrels cooling. Soldiers breathing deeply, aware that their coordination had created not only destruction, but legend. The battlefield itself reshaped. The M1919 had become more than a weapon, a force of anticipation, calculation, and lethal efficiency. Fact, cumulative analysis shows that units facing coordinated M1919 fire with overlapping fields of fire were forced to halt or retreat 70 to 80% of the time. Losses inflicted before engagement with forward positions significant. Effective suppression zones extended across terrain features previously considered vulnerable. 50 men with 10 guns could dominate a ridge against numerically superior forces. Folklore Layer 4. Oral histories spoke of the invisible wall. Soldiers advancing with courage halted mid-step. Bullets intersecting like guided spirits. The ridge alive with lethal intent. The legend of coordinated M1919 fire at long range would be told for decades. Psychological dominance intertwined with technological and human skill. A teaching of war and myth combined. By evening, the battlefield quieted. Shells expended, smoke rising gently. Soldiers reloading, cleaning weapons, recording logs. The ridge still controlled. Enemy hesitation leaving lasting impressions. Coordination skill and mechanical advantage had transformed 50 men into an unstoppable defensive network. The echoes of that day lingering long after the smoke cleared. As the afternoon wore on, the valley lay under a tense stillness. Enemy forces battered by overlapping arcs of M1919 fire hesitated. Confusion spread among advancing squads. Retreating soldiers collided with hedgerows scrambling for cover. 50 defenders had transformed the ridge into an insurmountable fortress. Every step forward measured against invisible lines of bullets. Anticipation and coordination dictating the battlefield. The ridge became an extension of the soldier's will. Fact, after-action reports confirmed that coordinated M1919 positions inflicted over 60% of casualties before enemy troops could reach effective firing range. Sustained fire from multiple guns maintained suppressive dominance across approaches. Casualty rates among attackers far exceeded expectations. Defensive positions remained largely intact. Operational control had shifted decisively to the defenders. Lieutenant Harris walked the ridge binoculars, tracing the retreating enemy. Eyes alert, yet calm. The ridge had become a masterclass in calculated firepower. Every gun aligned, every sector covered. The soldiers' skill amplified by experience, discipline, and anticipation. Ammunition belts spent barrels hot. Yet the effectiveness of coordination echoed louder than any report could quantify. Folklore Layer soldiers would later recount that day as almost supernatural. It was as if the hill itself controlled the bullets, one gunner wrote. The enemy never knew where we were firing from. We merely watched them falter. Memoirs and letters described the ridge as sentient, alive with lethal intent. The M1919 had transcended mere weaponry, becoming a symbol of disciplined, coordinated dominance. The enemy attempted to regroup. Officers shouted commands, trying to organize flanking maneuvers. But the ridge anticipated every movement. Overlapping arcs of fire created lethal corridors. Retreating units funneled into crossfire. The psychological impact immense. Hesitation magnified vulnerability. Soldiers faced both steel and the unseen hand of tactical mastery. Fact Layer 2. Statistical analysis of coordinated machine gun placements shows that overlapping fields of fire significantly reduced enemy advance rates. First hit probability increased by up to 50% compared to isolated positions. Suppression zones extended beyond 1,500 yards in some sectors. Operational doctrine shifted as a result. Defending 50 men with 10 M1919s could dominate terrain exceeding standard battlefield widths. Corporal Tanaka checked the last ammunition belts, relayed positions to adjacent sectors, arcs corrected, new targets acquired. The rhythm of fire continuous. Enemy movement slowed to a crawl. Every shot, every adjustment, every decision precise. The hunter logic of 50 men and 10 machine guns fully realized. The battlefield, a testament to anticipation, coordination, and lethal efficiency. Folklore Layer 2. Memoirs describe the enemy's hesitation as almost tangible. They froze in place, unsure of where the bullets came from. The ridge had become alive with fire, one soldier recalled. The legend of long-range lethality solidified. Psychological dominance now inseparable from physical destruction. The M1919 network became myth and reality intertwined. By late afternoon, the effects were undeniable. Enemy casualties mounting advances, stalled morale collapsing. Predicted victories evaporating under coordinated fire. Expectations shattered. The defenders had converted planning skill and coordination into absolute control. Each shell confirming dominance, each gunner reinforcing the lethal network. Fact Layer 3. Reports indicate that coordinated M1919 fire prevented enemy forces from capturing strategic points. 60 to 70% of attacking squads neutralized before engagement with forward defensive lines. Sustained suppression maintained minimal exposure for defenders. Tactical and psychological advantages ensured operational supremacy. Human skill and machine lethality combined to control terrain far beyond numerical parity. The sergeant signaled to cease fire. Ammunition spent, barrels hot, soldiers catching breath. The ridge secure, enemy units withdrawn, some retreating in disarray. Coordination, anticipation, and preparation had converted 50 men into a network capable of controlling a broad battlefield. The echoes of their discipline and skill would persist. Folklore Layer 3. Soldiers recalled moments where enemy squads seemed paralyzed, unable to advance. Bullets intersecting corridors, unseen, yet deadly. "We knew where they would step before they knew it themselves," one gunner wrote. Psychological impact amplified by human skill and mechanical precision. The legend of the unstoppable M1919 network cemented. As evening approached, the ridge silent once more. Smoke drifting lightly. Spent cartridges scattered. Soldiers tending weapons, recording positions, logging reports. The battlefield measured, controlled. Every calculation, every trigger pull, every coordination effort validated. Human courage and preparation amplified through mechanical efficiency. The hunter logic complete. Fact, cumulative data confirmed that coordinated M1919 operations by 50 men drastically reduced enemy combat effectiveness. Operational control retained. First strike success ensured. Tactical doctrine adjusted to incorporate overlapping machine gun fields of fire. Human skill and preparation magnified by technological reliability. Lieutenant Harris gazed over the valley. Enemy forces retreating. The ridge a monument to coordinated firepower. 50 men, 10 guns, and calculated arcs of bullets. Anticipation and preparation turning numerical disadvantage into overwhelming control. Legend born through fact, through courage, and through precise execution. Folklore Layer 4 letters. Diaries and oral histories describe the day as legendary. Enemy soldiers retreating confused and disoriented. The ridge itself fired, one recalled. The psychological and physical effects inseparable. Coordination, anticipation, and disciplined skill creating an almost supernatural impression. The M1919 network became mythic. By nightfall, the battlefield quiet, the ridge secured, guns cleaned, logs filed, ammunition accounted for. 50 soldiers had transformed a tactical position into a lethal, almost mythical stronghold. Enemy expectations shattered. Human skill, preparation, and machine coordination proven decisive. The turn of the day complete. The echo of dominance reverberating across the hills. Night settled over the ridge. The air heavy with smoke, the faint scent of gunpowder lingering. 50 soldiers moved quietly among spent shells, belts of ammunition, and the cold steel of their M1919s. The guns rested now silent. Yet the echo of their fire lingered in memory, in the earth, in the broken hedgerows, in the minds of the enemy who had once believed they could advance. Anticipation, coordination, and lethal precision had reshaped the battlefield. The ridge itself had become a legend. Fact. After-action reports confirmed that coordinated M1919 positions effectively halted or repelled enemy advances in over 70% of engagements. Casualties inflicted before reaching defensive lines significantly higher than in uncoordinated scenarios. Human skill combined with mechanical efficiency amplified lethality beyond numerical strength. Long-range dominance achieved through planning, training, and discipline. Lieutenant Harris walked along the ridge, boots crunching on spent cartridges, eyes scanning the valley in fading light. The soldiers breathing slow, measured, hearts still quickened from the day's engagements. Every movement, every trigger pull, every arc of fire had been part of a larger strategy. The M1919 was more than a weapon. It was an extension of their will. Every man a node in a lethal network. Folklore, layer, memoirs. From the battle spoke of an almost supernatural effect. Enemy soldiers halting mid-advance, bullets intersecting invisibly. The ridge alive with lethal intent. We knew where they would step before they realized it, one gunner wrote. The legend of the M1919 at long range had been born. Psychological impact as powerful as physical destruction. The battlefield transformed into a testament to human skill, preparation, and machine coordination. Corporal Tanaka cleaned his gun, checked the tripod, refed the belts, motion fluid practiced, every action precise. The soldiers moved as a single organism, anticipation, coordination, and experience guiding each motion. The ridge had been controlled with discipline and lethal efficiency. Every arc of fire accounted for, every gap covered. The hunter logic of 50 men fully realized. Fact Layer 2. Statistical analysis of coordinated M1919 deployments shows first hit probability increased by 35–50% over uncoordinated positions. Suppression zones extended well beyond standard engagement distances. The network of 50 soldiers operating 10 guns could control entire approaches to strategic terrain. Minimal exposure for defenders, maximum lethality for attackers. Operational dominance verified. Evening shadows lengthened. Enemy forces long gone, retreating through terrain scarred by precise fire. Confusion and hesitation among survivors. The psychological edge complete. 50 soldiers, 10 M1919s, and coordinated fields of fire had rewritten the rules of engagement. Expectations shattered. Reality controlled by preparation skill and lethal efficiency. Folklore Layer 2. Letters and oral histories described ghost bullets, invisible corridors of death, advancing enemy frozen in uncertainty. It was as if the ridge itself decided their fate, one soldier wrote. Human skill amplified by mechanical reliability created myth. Coordination turned a simple weapon into legend. The unstoppable hunter, now part of collective memory. As night deepened, the soldiers settled. The ridge quiet. Barrels cooling. Logs completed, maps marked, every detail noted for the next day. The lessons of anticipation, precision, and coordination engraved into memory. The battlefield had been mastered not by numbers alone, but by calculation, discipline, and courage. The M1919 network proved decisive. Fact Layer 3. Cumulative data from multiple engagements confirmed that overlapping M1919 fields of fire allowed defenders to dominate terrain, inflict maximum casualties at long range, and minimize their own losses. Operational control maintained. First strike advantage ensured. Psychological dominance amplified through coordination. Human skill and mechanical precision inseparable. Lieutenant Harris looked to the horizon. The valley silent. Enemy forces retreated beyond effective range. Shells spent barrels hot. Every position secured. The hunters had prevailed. The ridge transformed into a lethal monument. Anticipation, preparation, and skill having forged legend. Folklore Layer 3. Soldiers spoke of the invisible wall. Enemy halted in mid-advance. Bullets intersecting like guided spirits. Psychological and physical effects intertwined. Coordination and precision, creating an almost supernatural presence. The legend of 50 soldiers with M1919s at long range enduring in history. By midnight, the battlefield still, the ridge silent, the guns at rest. But the echoes of discipline, anticipation, and lethal coordination resonated. Human skill amplified by the M1919 had created dominance. Expectation shattered. Preparation rewarded. The hunter logic proven. And the lessons of that day would be told for generations. Some lessons written in smoke and steel, others in silence. Coordination, courage, and mechanical efficiency combined to create legend. The ridge had been controlled. The enemy halted, the battlefield transformed, and the echoes would last long after the guns had cooled. You've just witnessed another chapter from Classified Chronicles. If you want to uncover more stories of strategy, courage, and unexpected innovation, subscribe and let the next echo reach you. The ridge was silent, smoke curling into the night. 50 soldiers, 10 M1919s, and a battlefield transformed. Human skill, coordination, and anticipation had turned ordinary steel into legend. Every step of the enemy predicted, every arc of fire lethal. The hunter logic complete, fact and myth intertwined. Suppression zones extended beyond imagination. First strike accuracy lethal. Enemy hesitation guaranteed. The ridge no longer just terrain, it was an instrument of control shaped by courage and preparation. The M1919s had become more than guns. They were extensions of the soldier's will, a network of lethal intent. Corporal Jenkins lowered his gun, barrels still warm, eyes scanning the valley, every motion precise, every heartbeat attuned to the rhythm of the ridge. The battlefield silent, yet alive with the echoes of fire. Anticipation and calculation had created supremacy. The enemy underestimated the power of coordination skill and preparation. Folklore Layer soldiers would later say, the ridge itself seemed alive. It hunted them, one wrote. Bullets intersecting corridors invisible to the eye. The legend of the M1919 at long range cemented. Psychological dominance inseparable from physical destruction. 50 men had rewritten what it meant to control a battlefield. By dawn, the ridge remained under watchful eyes. Human and machine intertwined. Preparation, anticipation, and lethal skill had proven decisive. The hunter logic of 50 soldiers fully realized. The echo of that day would resonate through history, a lesson in how discipline, courage, and coordination can turn the ordinary into unstoppable. Some lessons written in smoke and steel, others in silence. The ridge had spoken. The hunter had prevailed. and the echoes would linger far beyond the battlefield. You've just witnessed the story of why 50 soldiers made the M1919 machine gun lethal at long range. Courage, precision, and coordination. Transforming men and machines into legend. The battlefield remembered, and so will you.